Hello there, and welcome to the Sleep Encyclopedia. Tonight we turn our gaze upward, far beyond the clouds, to witness one of the most ancient and ethereal spectacles of our world. We are going to drift into the frozen silence of the north, where the sun sings to the earth in ribbons of silent fire. The Aurora Borealis is not merely a display of light, it is a celestial conversation, a visual echo of invisible forces that protect and surround us every moment of our lives. It is a phenomenon that has captivated dreamers, travelers, and scientists for millennia, bridging the gap between the cold void of space and the warm, living atmosphere of our home. If you enjoy these quiet journeys into the unknown, feel free to like and subscribe or share a thought in the comments below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, simply settle in. Let the day drift away like mist. Find a position where your body feels completely supported. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears, releasing the weight they have carried. Unclench your jaw and soften the muscles around your eyes. Let your eyelids grow heavy, as if weighted by soft falling snow. Take a deep breath in and a long, slow breath out. You are safe here. Let's begin. The story of the Aurora does not begin on Earth, but 90-3 million miles away, in the churning heart of the Sun. Our star is a restless giant constantly releasing a stream of charged particles known as the solar wind. These particles traverse the vast, cold emptiness of space at speeds of 1,000,000 miles per hour, carrying the sun's energy across the void. To the naked eye, space appears empty and silent, but it is actually alive with this invisible river of electricity flowing endlessly toward us. Imagine standing on the edge of the atmosphere, watching the silent storm approach. Visualize the particles rushing through the dark like a swarm of microscopic fireflies, crossing the impossible distance between the fire of the star and the ice of the poles. They travel through the silence for days, carrying a message of light that is waiting to be decoded. It is a humbling reminder that we are never truly disconnected from the cosmos, and that even across the vast and lonely dark, the sun reaches out to touch our world in a constant, invisible embrace. As these solar travelers arrive, they do not strike the Earth directly, they are greeted by our planet's magnetic field. This is the magnetosphere, a vast, invisible shield that extends thousands of miles into space, generated by the churning molten iron deep within Earth's core. It catches the solar wind and funnels it gently toward the north and south poles, guiding the energy along unseen magnetic lines. Imagine a giant protective cage made of silence and gravity, catching a storm and turning it into a caress. Picture the magnetic lines curving gracefully over the planet like the ribs of a great, transparent umbrella, guiding the chaotic energy of the sun into a structured, elegant dance. The violence of the solar wind is tamed by this shield, transformed from a potential danger into a thing of pure beauty. It is a reminder that protection is often invisible, a silent force generated from deep within, turning the harsh energies of the universe into a safe and stunning spectacle of light. When the charged particles finally collide with gases in our atmosphere, they transfer their energy to oxygen atoms, causing them to glow. This interaction produces the most common color of the aurora, a brilliant, ghostly green. Oxygen atoms located about 60 to 150 miles above the surface emit this specific hue when they return to a resting state after being excited. Imagine vast curtains of emerald light slowly unfurling across a velvet sky, billowing as if moved by a slow motion breeze that no one can feel. Picture the green fire swirling and folding upon itself, painting the dark canvas of the night with a luminescence that feels almost alive. It illuminates the snow-covered landscape below with a soft, alien glow, turning the frozen world into a dreamscape. It is a reminder that the very air we breathe, the invisible substance that sustains our lives every second, holds within it the potential for breathtaking beauty. It is waiting only for the right touch of energy to reveal its hidden colors. While green is the most familiar shade, the aurora can also paint the sky in rare and vibrant violets or deep blues. This occurs when the solar particles strike nitrogen atoms rather than oxygen. Nitrogen is harder to excite and requires higher energy to glow, meaning these colors often appear at the lower edges of the auroral curtains, dancing fiercely along the horizon. Imagine a fringe of royal purple lining the bottom of a great green tapestry, moving with a faster, more frantic rhythm. Picture the colors blending and shifting, a watercolor painting creating itself in real time against the stars. The blue light struggles to be seen against the black sky, a subtle and fleeting presence that rewards only the most patient observers. It adds a depth and complexity to the display, proving that the sky has more than one voice. It is a reminder that nature rarely settles for a single note, but prefers to create harmonies, layering complexity upon complexity to create a masterpiece that vanishes the moment it is finished. There is a rare red aurora that appears only at extreme altitudes, nearly 200 miles above the surface. Here, the oxygen is thinner and the collisions are less frequent, allowing the atoms to emit a deep, blood-red light. Unlike the frantic dancing of the lower green lights, the red aurora is often a steady, ominous glow like a distant fire burning at the edge of the world. Imagine looking up to see the upper atmosphere stained with crimson, a slow and solemn light that seems to hang motionless in the vacuum. Picture it as a crown hovering far above the rest of the display, touching the very edge of space where the atmosphere fades into nothingness. It is a phenomenon seen early, during the most intense solar storms, a signal of immense power manifesting as a quiet red haze. It is a reminder that even at the thinnest, most fragile edges of our world, there is still presence and light, standing guard against the infinite darkness of the void. The aurora does not appear randomly across the globe. It is confined to a specific halo-like ring known as the aurora loval. This band encircles the magnetic pole, expanding and contracting like a breathing lung depending on the intensity of the solar wind. When the sun is quiet, the oval remains a tight, neat crown atop the world, visible only to those in the highest latitudes. But when a solar storm strikes, the oval widens, spilling its light further south, touching skies that rarely see such magic. Imagine floating high above the Earth in the silence of orbit, looking down at the dark, sleeping side of the planet. Picture this glowing ring of green fire hovering over the Arctic, a permanent halo that spins endlessly with the rotation of the world. It looks like a portal, a gateway of light guarding the frozen north. It is a humbling reminder that chaos often possesses a hidden geometry, and that even the wildest energies of the universe are bound by invisible laws that shape them into forms of perfect, circular symmetry. The frequency of these lights is tied to the sun's own internal clock, a rhythm known as the solar cycle. Every 11 years, our star moves from a period of quiet calm to a season of chaotic storms, and then back again. During the solar maximum, the sun is active and wild, sending frequent bursts of energy that light up our skies. During the minimum, it sleeps, and the auroras become shy and elusive. Imagine the sun taking a slow, deep breath that lasts for over a decade. Picture the lights on Earth waxing and waning in time with this massive, slow motion exhalation. It is a cosmic heartbeat, beating so slowly that a human life can only witness a few pulses. The sky you see tonight is dictated by a rhythm that began years ago, deep within the stellar core. It is a reminder that nature operates on temescales far grander than our own, and that patience is often the only way to witness the true, unfolding pattern of the universe. For centuries, travelers in the far north have reported a strange phenomenon, the sound of the aurora. They describe a faint rustling, a hiss like silk rubbing against silk, or a crackle like burning pine needles, accompanying the visual display. For a long time, science dismissed this as an illusion, but recent studies suggest that under certain conditions, the electric charge of the aurora can reach all the way down to the ground. This creates tiny discharges in the air near the observer. Imagine standing alone on a frozen tundra, where the silence is so deep you can hear your own heartbeat. Suddenly, as the lights flare overhead, a soft whisper brushes past your ears, a static murmur that feels like the sky is speaking directly to you. The air itself is charged, vibrating with the same energy that paints the clouds. It is a reminder that the world is often more complex than we can measure, and that the senses we rely on are sometimes capable of detecting the invisible energies that hum just beneath the surface of reality. Earth is not the only world to wear this crown of light. The giant planets of Jupiter and Saturn possess auroras that dwarf our own. On Jupiter, the lights are constant and intense, fueled not just by the sun, but by volcanic particles spewed from its moon Io. These displays glow with a fierce ultraviolet energy that our eyes could not even see, circling the poles of a world made entirely of storm and gas. Imagine drifting near the cloud tops of Jupiter, watching a purple auroral storm larger than the entire Earth swirling endlessly in the dark. Picture the immense power required to generate such a display, a voltage so high it would incinerate anything human. It is a light show that plays to an empty audience, a spectacle of grandeur that exists simply because physics demands it. It is a humbling reminder that beauty is universal, not unique to our home, and that across the galaxy, other worlds are crowned with their own halos, shining silently into the indifferent void. Long before we understood the physics of ions and magnetic fields, ancient cultures looked up and saw stories written in the light. The Sami people of Lapland believed the aurora was caused by a celestial fox running across the snow. They called it rave ontelet, or fox fires. They imagined that as the great fox dashed across the frozen peaks, its tail swept the snowdrifts, sending sparks flying up into the sky to become the stars in the northern lights. Imagine looking up with ancient eyes, not analyzing the gas or the altitude, but seeing the trail of a mythical creature. Picture the sparks lingering in the air, a magical residue of a journey taken by a spirit animal in a realm we cannot touch. The sky becomes a canvas for imagination, a place where the natural world meets the world of dreams. It is a reminder that the human mind has always sought meaning in the dark, weaving connection and wonder out of the cold, silent mysteries that drift above our heads. While the classic aurora is a curtain of green, there is a recently discovered phenomenon that looks entirely different: an arrow, purple ribbon of light flowing from east to west. Scientists have named it STEVE, strong thermal emission velocity enhancement. Unlike the shimmering, wide drapes of the traditional aurora, STEVE is a focused river of hot atmospheric gas, flowing at immense speeds through the upper atmosphere. It appears alongside the green lights like a violet brushstroke, precise and searingly bright. Imagine looking up to see a single, perfect line of royal purple cutting the night in half, flanked by a picket fence of short, green fingers. Picture a celestial river, glowing with a heat that defies the frozen landscape below, moving with a silent, determined purpose across the stars. It is a new mystery, a feature of the night sky that went unnamed until very recently, proving that the heavens still hold secrets. It is a humbling reminder that even in an age of total mapping and constant surveillance, the sky can still surprise us, revealing new forms of beauty that have been waiting patiently for us to look up and notice. The aurora is not always a blaze of light sometimes. It is defined by the shadows it creates. There is a phenomenon known as the black aurora, where distinct dark patches appear within the glowing sheets. These are not merely gaps in the clouds, but regions where the electric fields are actually pushing electrons upward, away from the atmosphere rather than raining them down. It is an anti-minus aurora, a zone of electrical silence carved out of the chaos. Imagine a canvas of shifting green fire, suddenly punctured by swirling voids of absolute darkness. Picture these black holes drifting through the light like ink dropped into water, curling and twisting with the same complex turbulence as the glow surrounding them. It is the negative space of the sky, the silence between the notes of a visual symphony. It is a reminder that darkness is not just the absence of light, but a presence in itself, an active participant in the balance of the universe, shaping the brilliance around it into forms we can understand. The height of the aurora is deceptive, though it looks close enough to touch from a mountain peak. The bottom edge of the curtain usually hangs about 60 miles up, while the top can stretch to several hundred miles high, touching the realm where satellites orbit. This means that the structure you see is taller than Mount Everest stacked upon itself dozens of times. Imagine standing at the base of a monument made of pure light, a tower of luminescence that begins in the atmosphere and ends in the vacuum of the void. Picture the sheer vertical scale of these ribbons, towering over the clouds, dwarfing the highest peaks of the earth, existing in a layer of the sky where the air is too thin to breathe. It is a spectacle of immense verticality, connecting the ground to the galaxy. It is a reminder that our perspective is often limited, and that the things we perceive as local and intimate are actually vast, cosmic structures that transcend the boundaries of our small world. The magnetic field that creates the aurora is generated deep underground, in the Earth's outer core. There, thousands of miles beneath our feet, an ocean of molten iron churns and flows, driven by the heat of the planet's formation. This movement creates a geodynamo, turning the entire Earth into a colossal magnet. The light show in the sky is actually a direct reflection of the liquid fire in the deep Earth. Imagine the connection between the deepest depths and the highest heights. Picture the slow, heavy churning of liquid metal in the dark core, invisible and crushing, sending out invisible lines of force that travel through the rock, through the air, and out into space. The sky is painting a picture of the Earth's heartbeat. It is a profound reminder that everything is connected, that the fire beneath us and the fire above us are linked in a silent partnership, working together to wrap our planet in a shield of safety and light. During periods of intense solar activity, the aurora can expand far beyond the poles, reaching latitudes that usually know only darkness. In recorded history, great solar storms have pushed these lights as far south as the Caribbean or Rome, turning the night skies of the tropics into blood-minus red domes. In 1859, the Carrington event caused auroras so bright that gold miners in the Rocky Mountains woke up at 1 o'clock a.m. and began making breakfast, thinking the sun had risen. Imagine waking in the middle of the night to a world bathed in an impossible rosy glow. Picture the confusion and the wonder as the familiar constellations are washed out by a tide of living color, erasing the boundary between day and night. It is a moment where the rules of the sky are temporarily suspended. It is a reminder that our planet is a fragile vessel sailing through a dynamic ocean of energy. At any moment, the universe can reach down and touch us with a power that turns the impossible into reality. The aurora is not just a visual phenomenon, it is also a source of natural radio waves. As the solar wind slams into the ionosphere, it creates a cacophony of electromagnetic signals known as the auroral chorus. These very low-frequency VLF radio waves sound remarkably like a flock of birds chirping or frogs croaking in a distant pond, though they cannot be heard by the human ear without a receiver. Imagine standing on a snowy ridge holding a radio receiver, tuning into the empty static of the night. Suddenly, the speaker comes alive not with static, but with a strange, rhythmic dawn chorus of chirps and whistles, singing in time with the lights dancing overhead. Picture the invisible air around you filling with this electronic song, a melody created by particles colliding at thousands of miles per second. It is the sky singing to itself. It is a reminder that the universe is never truly silent. It is filled with a constant, complex music that plays on frequencies we are only just learning to hear, waiting for us to tune in. The shape of the aurora changes depending on your perspective. From a distance, they look like curtains or ribbons, but if you stand directly beneath the magnetic zenith, the lights appear to explode outward from a single central point. This is called an auroral corona or crown. It is an optical illusion caused by the parallel rays of light converging in the distance, much like railroad tracks meeting at the horizon. Imagine lying flat on your back on a frozen lake, looking straight up into the heart of the storm. Picture the sky opening up directly above you, a flower of green and violet light blooming outward in all directions, as if you are staring into a tunnel of fire that leads straight to space. The movement is dizzying and immersive, creating the sensation that you are falling upward into the light. It is a reminder that what we see depends entirely on where we stand, and that a shift in perspective can transform a distant wall of light into a personal, overwhelming embrace. The energy contained in a geomagnetic storm is profound enough to touch our technology. When the aurora is particularly intense, it induces electric currents in the ground and in long metal conductors. In 1989, a massive solar storm pushed the aurora south and overloaded the power grid in Quebec, plunging millions into darkness. The same force that paints the sky can flow through our wires, bridging the gap between the celestial and the mechanical, Imagine the invisible hand of the sun reaching down through the atmosphere, gently touching the power lines that crisscross the dark landscape. Picture the electricity of the stars mingling with the electricity of human cities, a momentary connection where the artificial and the natural become one. For a moment, the lights in our homes flicker in sympathy with the lights in the sky. It is a humbling reminder that our modern world is fragile, a tiny web of copper and glass resting lightly on the surface of a planet that is still subject to the wild, untamable breaths of its star. Not all auroras are chaotic, some form distinct, stable symbols. There is a rare formation known as the theta aura, which appears almost exclusively over the polar caps. Seen from satellites, it looks like a perfect string of light with a single, glowing bar crossing through the center, resembling the Greek letter theta. This occurs when the magnetic field lines twist in a specific, complex way, trapping the plasma in a geometric cage. Imagine looking down from a spacecraft to see a glowing, ancient symbol etched in fire upon the top of the world. Picture the stillness of it, a glowing eye staring back at the darkness of space, holding its shape against the chaos of the solar wind. It looks like a sigil, a mark of protection stamped onto the atmosphere by the magnetic forces below. It is a reminder that the universe speaks in the language of mathematics and geometry, constantly arranging its energy into patterns that echo the symbols we have drawn in the sand for thousands of years. Mars, our rusty neighbor, possesses a very different kind of aura. Because Mars lost its global magnetic field billions of years ago, it has only patchy remnants of magnetism locked in its crust. This creates proton auroras, small, isolated umbrellas of ultraviolet light that bloom over specific regions of the planet. They are not global curtains, but lonely, localized glows, invisible to the human eye but bright to our instruments. Imagine standing on the reed dust of a dead ocean bed on Mars. Picture the sky above you suddenly lighting up with a solitary patch of pulsing, invisible energy, a ghost of the magnetic shield that once protected this world. It is a haunting, silent display, occurring on a planet where no eyes are there to watch it. It is a profound reminder that beauty persists, even in desolation, and that the laws of physics continue to create wonders on every world, painting with light, even in the deepest, loneliest silence of the solar system. While the northern lights, or Aurora Borealis, are famous, they have a silent twin in the south, the Aurora Australis. These southern lights mirror the north almost perfectly, dancing simultaneously in a synchronized display of global symmetry. Because the southern polar region is mostly ocean and uninhabited ice, these lights often perform to an empty theater. They shimmer over the dark, restless waves of the Antarctic Ocean where no human eye is there to witness them. Imagine standing on the edge of the great Antarctic ice sheet, surrounded by a silence so profound it feels like a physical weight. Picture the mirrored curtain of light rising above the glaciers, a secret performance played out for the penguins and the drifting icebergs. It is a display of absolute purity, untouched by city lights or human noise, glowing in the most desolate place on earth. It is a reminder that the universe does not perform for an audience, but creates beauty simply because it is the nature of energy to express itself, regardless of who is there to see it. The colors of the aurora are determined by a delicate chemistry of altitude and atomic structure. Pale green appears up to 150 miles high, while red appears above 150 miles, blue and violet appear below 60 miles. This creates a layered cake of light, a vertical stratification of the atmosphere, revealed only by the solar wind. Most of the time, we only see the green middle layer, but during strong storms, the entire stack becomes visible, revealing the true depth of our sky. Imagine the atmosphere as a vast, invisible instrument, with each layer representing a different musical note waiting to be struck. Picture the solar particles as the fingers of a musician, strumming the air at different heights to produce a chord of color that spans hundreds of miles. The sky is not a flat canvas, but a deep, 3-dimensional volume filled with potential light. It is a humbling reminder that the air above us is not empty space, but a complex, layered ocean of gases, each with its own secret color waiting to be unlocked by the sun. The energy required to create a brighter, auroral display is staggering. A single strong geomagnetic storm can dissipate more energy in an hour. Yet, this immense power is delivered in total silence. There is no thunder, no crashing wind, only the soft, undulating movement of the light. The violence of the solar ejection, billions of tons of plasma blasted from the sun, is transmuted by the Earth's magnetic field into a gentle, ghostly drift. Imagine a force capable of destroying cities being cottoned, tamed by an invisible hand. Picture the raw, burning fury of the sun filtering down through the magnetosphere, slowing, cooling, and softening until it becomes nothing more than a green ribbon waving in a breeze. It is alchemy on a planetary scale, turning danger into dreams. It is a reminder that strength does not always roar. Sometimes, the greatest powers in the universe are the ones that can absorb chaos and turn it into quiet peace. Ancient clay tablets from Babylon, dated to 567 BC, describe a red glow in the night sky, one of the earliest recorded sightings of the aurora. Even in regions far from the poles, like the Middle East, rare super-minor storms have occasionally pushed the light slow enough to be seen. To the ancient scribes, these red skies were often interpreted as omens of war or divine anger, terrifying and inexplicable. Imagine an ancient astronomer standing on a ziggurat, looking up at a sky that has suddenly turned the color of blood. Picture the awe and the fear as the familiar stars are drowned out by a slow, crimson pulse that seems to breathe. Without the knowledge of solar physics, the sight was pure mystery, a direct message from the gods written in fire. It is a reminder that we share the same sky as our ancestors, and that the same cosmic forces that once inspired fear now inspire wonder, bridging the gap of centuries with the same silent light. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station have the unique privilege of flying through the aurora, not just looking up at it. From their vantage point, they see the lights as a green river flowing beneath them, or a wall of shimmering fire that they must pass through. They describe it as looking like a living creature crawling over the curvature of the Earth, untethered from the ground. Imagine floating weightless in the cupola of the space station, watching the green ribbons drift below your feet. Picture the auroral crown sitting atop the planet like a halo, glowing against the absolute blackness of space. From here, you can see the scale of it, a phenomenon that dwarfs mountains and oceans, wrapping the entire world in a gentle hug. It is a reminder that a shift in perspective changes everything, and that the things that seem distant and high above us are actually part of a larger system that we are floating within. There is a specific type of display known as the pulsating aurora, which usually occurs after the main storm has subsided. Instead of moving like a curtain, these lights blink on and off in complex, patchy patterns, sometimes as fast as a heartbeat. This flickering is caused by chorus waves, in space plasma waves that scatter electrons down into the atmosphere in rhythmic bursts. Imagine the entire sky breathing above you, inhaling into darkness and exhaling into light, over and over again. Picture faint patches of glowing gray and green switching on and off like a malfunctioning street lamp, a strobe light played in slow motion across the stars. It creates a hypnotic, disorienting rhythm, as if the atmosphere itself is drifting in undoubt of sleep. It is a reminder that the universe has a pulse, a hidden tempo that governs the flow of energy, and that even in the aftermath of chaos, there is a steady, soothing rhythm waiting to be found. The aurora does not just create light, it also generates immense heat. During a strong geomagnetic storm, the upper atmosphere can heat up by hundreds of degrees as the energy from the solar wind is dumped into the air. This process, known as joule heating, causes the atmosphere to swell and expand upward, increasing the drag on low-minus orbiting satellites. While the ground remains frozen and cold, the edge of space is burning with invisible friction. Imagine a layer of fire burning silently above the ice. Picture the sheer quantity of energy required to warm the roof of the world. It is a thermal blanket trapped around the poles that no one on the surface can feel. It is a secret warmth, a hidden fire that changes the density of the sky itself. It is a humbling reminder that perception is limited, and that while we may feel only the biting cold of the winter wind, the sky above us is glowing with the fierce, protective heat of a shield absorbing a blow. In Norse mythology, the aurora was often interpreted as the Bifrost, the burning rainbow bridge that connected Midgard, the world of humans, to Asgard, the realm of the gods. To the Vikings, these lights were not just atmospheric gases, but a physical pathway, a road constructed of fire and magic that only the worthy could cross. Imagine standing at the foot of a bridge, made entirely of light, arching high over the mountains and vanishing into the stars. Picture the shimmering, translucent surface of this road, constantly shifting and rebuilding itself, beckoning you to leave the heavy earth behind and walk into the heavens. It is a vision of connection, a structure built to link the mortal and the divine. It is a reminder that we have always felt small beneath the sky, and that our ancestors filled the void with bridges and stories, seeking to close the distance between our fragile lives and the eternal nature of the cosmos. The magnetic tail of the Earth, known as the magnetotale, stretches out behind our planet for millions of miles, pointing away from the sun like the wake of a ship. During a substorm, this tail gets stretched to thin, snaps, and reconnects, flinging vast amounts of plasma back toward Earth like a cosmic slingshot. This sudden snap is often what triggers the brightest and most explosive auroral displays. Imagine a giant, invisible rubber band stretching endlessly into the dark, holding the tension of the solar wind until it can hold no more. Picture the moment of release, the snap that sends a shockwave of energy racing backward through the dark to ignite the sky. It is a release of tension on a planetary scale, a violent recoil that results in beauty. It is a reminder that pressure often leads to transformation, and that the most brilliant moments of our lives often come after a period of intense stretching, when the tension is finally released into light. Sometimes the aurora appears as a diffuse aurora, a featureless glow that covers the entire sky in a faint, milky haze. Unlike the discrete arcs and ribbons, the diffuser aura has no sharp edges. It is simply a blanket of luminescence that makes the night sky appear slightly gray or green, washing out the dimmer stars. It is caused by a steady drizzle of electrons rather than a sudden storm. Imagine a fog made of pure light, settling softly over the mountains and the sea. Picture the world wrapped in a glowing gauze, a soft luminescence that has no beginning and no end, simply a presence that changes the quality of the darkness. It is the quietest form of the phenomenon, a background hum of energy that is easy to miss if you are not looking. It is a reminder that not all power needs to be loud or distinct, and that sometimes the most enduring forces are the ones that simply surround us, constant and gentle like a soft light in a dark room. The aurora is a beautiful sign of a more turbulent reality known as space weather. Just as Earth has rain and wind, the space surrounding our planet has storms of radiation and tides of plasma. When the aurora flares, it is a visual signal that the weather in space has turned stormy, driven by the winds of the sun. These storms can compress the magnetosphère on the day- side of Earth and stretch it out on the night- side, reshaping the invisible bubble in which we live. Imagine standing in a house made of glass, watching a silent hurricane rage just outside the walls. Picture the solar wind buffeting against the invisible shield, a torrent of particles flowing around the planet like water around a stone in a fast moving stream. We are safe inside, protected by physics, watching the turbulence transform into a light show. It is a reminder that we live in a dynamic, active neighborhood, and that the calm blue sky we see during the day hides a tempest of energy that is constantly flowing just beyond the reach of the air. There was a period in history known as the Monde Minimum between 1645 and 1715, when the sun became strangely quiet. Sunspots vanished, solar storms ceased, and the Aurora Borealis almost completely disappeared from the skies of Europe. This coincided with the Little Ice Age, a time of bitter cold winters and frozen rivers. For 70 years, the night sky was largely dark, stripped of its dancing fire. Imagine a generation that grew up never seeing the northern lights, only hearing stories from their grandparents of a time when the sky burned green. Picture the stillness of those long winter nights, where the stars shone down without the company of the solar wind, a deep, undisturbed slumber of the heavens. It was a pause in the celestial conversation, a silence that lasted a lifetime. It is a humbling reminder that the beauty of the natural world is not guaranteed, but is a gift of the cycle, a temporary blooming of light that can vanish just as easily as it appears. The altitude of the aurora affects its speed. The higher the light, the slower it seems to move. The red lights at the top of the curtain, occurring in the near-minus vacuum of the upper thermosphere, often drift with a languid, ghostly slowness. In contrast, the purple and pink lights at the bottom, where the atmosphere is denser, can dart and flicker with frantic energy. This creates a visual effect of a heavy, slow moving top anchored by a fast, dancing bass. Imagine a great tapestry hanging from the stars, its hem fluttering wildly in a breeze while its top remains majestic and still. Picture the differing rhythms of the light, a visual harmony where urgency and patience coexist in the same pillar of fire. The sky is playing to different tempos at once, blending them into a single, fluid motion. It is a reminder that different layers of reality move at different speeds, and that the higher we rise above the heavy atmosphere of the world, the more time seems to stretch and slow down. The magnetic poles of the Earth are not fixed, they wander slowly over time, drifting across the Arctic landscape. As the poles move, they drag the aurora oval with them. This means that the home of the northern nights changes over centuries. Thousands of years ago, the aurora would have been seen overhead in regions that are now bereft of it, and in the future, it will shift again, painting new skies for new civilizations. Imagine the crown of light slowly migrating across the map, a drift so gradual that no single human life can perceive it. Picture the magnetic heart of the planet wandering beneath the ice, pulling the curtains of green fire along with it like a royal train. It is a nomadic monument, a landmark that refuses to stay in one place. It is a reminder that even the foundations of our planet are restless, and that the map of the world is not a static drawing, but a snapshot of a slow, eternal journey. Uranus, the planet that spins on its side, has auroras that defy all earthly logic. Because its magnetic field is tilted at a wild 60-degree angle and does not pass through the center of the planet, its auroras do not form simple rings around the poles. Instead, they appear as chaotic, patchy flashes of light scattered across the equator and the mid-minus latitudes, blinking on and off as the planet rolls through the dark. Imagine a world where the northern lights are not in the north, but burst randomly in the middle of the sky like strobe lights. Picture a chaotic, bright dance that ignores the rules of direction, a light show dictated by a broken compass. It is a spectacle of total unpredictability, alien and strange. It is a humbling reminder that the universe loves diversity, and that for every rule of symmetry we find on Earth, there is another world out there that breaks it with a beautiful, chaotic exception. There is a specific, recently identified auroral form known as the dunes. Unlike the vertical curtains or chaotic spirals, these lights appear as evenly spaced, horizontal ripples of green, looking remarkably like sand dunes on a desert floor, but suspended 60 miles high. Scientists discovered that these patterns are caused by atmospheric gravity waves ripples in the mesosphere, where the air is sandwiched between different temperature layers. The aurora illuminates these invisible waves, acting as a natural tracer eye. Imagine looking up to see a ghostly green desert floating in the sky, vast ridges of light stretching toward the horizon in perfect, rhythmic lines. Picture the air itself rolling like the sea, an ocean of gas crashing silently against the shore of space. It is a landscape made of nothing but breath and electricity, mirroring the shapes of the earth below. It is a reminder that the atmosphere is a fluid ocean, constantly moving in waves and tides we cannot see, and that the light is merely a lantern revealing the complex, invisible currents that flow above our heads. The name Aurora Borealis was coined by Galileo Galilei in 1619, derived from Aurora, the Roman goddess of the dawn, and Boreas, the Greek god of the north wind. Galileo mistakenly believed the lights were sunlight reflecting off the atmosphere, a false dawn occurring in the wrong direction. Though his science was incorrect, his poetry was perfect. The aurora often looks exactly like a sunrise that refuses to ascend, a glow that promises morning but stays trapped in the night. Imagine standing on a hilltop in the 17th century, watching a strange, pale light blooming in the north where only darkness should be. Picture the confusion of waiting for a sun that never rises, a morning trapped in a frozen moment of twilight. It is a dawn that brings no heat, only beauty. It is a reminder that even our misunderstandings can hold a kind of truth, and that we have always used the language of the familiar like dawn and wind to describe the mysteries that have no name. Deep in the Jovian system, the moon Ganymede possesses something unique among all the moons in the solar system, its own magnetic field. Because of this, it has its own tiny, independent aura belts. However, Ganymede is also embedded within Jupiter's massive magnetosphere, meaning its little lights are constantly fighting against the overwhelming power of the giant planet. The result is a rocking aura that sways back and forth as the moon orbits. Imagine standing on the icy surface of this small moon, looking up to see two skies fighting. Above you, the massive, violent radiation of Jupiter swirls, but close to the ground. Close to the ground, Ganymede's own gentle, protective oval glows steadfastly. Picture a small shield holding back a storm, a tiny circle of light maintaining its identity in the shadow of a giant. It is a reminder that even the small can possess their own strength, and that having a strong center allows one to maintain their own light, even when surrounded by forces far greater than themselves. The aurora does not only touch the sky, it touches the earth beneath it through telluric currents. These are electric currents that are induced in the Earth's crust and oceans by the shifting magnetic fields above. When the sky burns with auroral light, the ground beneath your feet is also humming with invisible electricity flowing through rock, soil, and salt water. The Earth acts as a mirror to the sky, conducting the same energy in a dark, subterranean reflection. Imagine the ground. You walk on pulsing in sympathy with the stars. Picture the energy flowing through the roots of trees and the veins of minerals, a silent conversation between the bedrock and the upper atmosphere. The planet is a single, conductive circuit, and we are standing in the middle of the flow. It is a profound reminder that there is no separation between the heavens and the earth. They are bound together by invisible threads of energy, moving in a synchronized dance that encompasses the entire world. Ultimately, the light of the aurora comes from atoms returning to peace. When an oxygen atom is struck by the solar wind, it becomes excited, holding extra energy that it cannot keep. To return to its natural, resting state, it must release that energy, which it does by emitting a photon of green light. The brilliance we see is literally the atmosphere relaxing, billions of atoms exhaling the sun's energy so they can go back to sleep. Imagine the sky as a vast field of tension being released. Picture every flash of green as a microscopic sigh of relief, a return to calm after a moment of chaos. The beauty is not in the excitement, but in the recovery. It is a spectacle of restoration, a visual map of the air finding its balance again. It is a soothing reminder that brilliance often comes from the act of letting go, and that the return to stillness can be the most beautiful moment of all. Sometimes, during the most intense phase of a substorm, the aurora curls into massive, majestic spirals. These are not messy swirls, but mathematically perfect formations that can span hundreds of miles, looking remarkably like giant green galaxies or nautilus shells stamped onto the black sky. These spirals form because of Kelvin-Helmholtz's instability, a turbulence that occurs when two layers of plasma move past each other at different speeds, curling the magnetic field lines into a vortex. Imagine looking up to see a perfect, glowing snail shell the size of a continent, slowly rotating above your head. Picture the sheer scale of the geometry, a whirlpool of emerald fire spinning silently in the vacuum, drawing your eye into its center. It creates a sensation of vertigo, as if the sky is a deep pool and you are falling into it. It is a profound reminder that the laws of physics are universal, repeating the same beautiful patterns in the water of a stream, the shell of a sea creature. There is often a difference between what the human eye sees and what a camera sees. Because our eyes are not sensitive to color in low light, a fainter aura often appears to us as a ghostly, shifting gray mist. However, a camera sensor, which can collect light over seconds, reveals the vibrant greens and purples that are truly there. This means the sky is often filled with colors that are physically present, yet invisible to our unaided senses. Imagine standing in a landscape of gray shadows, taking a photograph, and realizing the world around you is actually bathed in vivid neon light. Picture the moment of revelation, knowing that the dull mist you see is actually a blazing curtain of emerald energy, hidden only by the limitations of your own biology. The beauty is there, whether you can perceive it or not. It is a reminder that reality is far richer and more vibrant than our senses can report, and that there are always layers of wonder waiting just beyond the threshold of our perception. One of the most distinct shapes the aurora takes is known as the picket fence. In this formation, the light does not look like a smooth sheet, but rather like a series of distinct, vertical pillars standing side by side, evenly spaced. This happens when the solar wind excites the atmosphere in very specific, narrow channels along the magnetic field lines. The result is a row of towering columns of light that seem to hold up the dome of the heavens. Imagine a cage made of light, or the pillars of a great, invisible cathedral, rising from the horizon to the zenith. Picture the stability of these beams, standing like sentinels in the dark, motionless for moments at a time before drifting slowly apart. They give the sky a sense of architecture and structure, turning the atmosphere into a palace. It is a reminder that even in the fluid, shifting medium of the air, nature seeks order, building temporary temples of light that stand tall against the chaos of the night. There is a weakness in Earth's magnetic shield known as the South Atlantic anomaly. Here, the Van Allen radiation belts dip lower toward the surface than anywhere else on the planet. While this usually creates hazards for satellites, it can also allow Aurora Borealis-like phenomena to occur further north than usual in the southern hemisphere. It is a dent in the armor, a place where the barrier between Earth and space is thin. Imagine a window in the roof of the world, where the cosmic winds blow a little closer to the ground. Picture the radiation dipping down toward the ocean, invisible and silent, a secret vulnerability in the planet's defense. It is a region where pilots and astronauts must be careful, a zone of heightened exposure. It is a humbling reminder that no protection is perfect, and that even the strongest shields have soft spots where the outside world can reach in and touch the delicate life within. The ultimate source of the aurora, the sun, rotates once every 20-7 days. Because of this, coronal holes, areas on the sun that spray high-speed solar wind, often return to face Earth exactly 20-7 days later. This means the aurora can be predicted like the tides, returning on a rhythmic schedule. If you see a magnificent display tonight, there is a good chance the same stream of wind will wash over the planet again nearly a month from now. Imagine a lighthouse beam sweeping through the solar system, hitting Earth with a splash of light, moving on, and then returning with perfect timing. Picture the regularity of this cycle, a cosmic clock that chimes in light once a month. The sky remembers the pattern, waiting for the sun to turn its face toward us again. It is a soothing reminder that the universe is not random, but is governed by cycles and returns, a great wheel of time that brings beauty back to us again and again. Every auroral display begins with a quiet phase known as the growth phase, where a simple, stable arc of light hangs motionless in the sky. But eventually, this tension must break. In a process called a auroral breakup, the stable arc suddenly fractures, shattering into thousands of moving rays that fill the entire sky in seconds. It is a release of magnetic pressure that transforms a single line into a chaotic, beautiful storm of luminescence. Imagine a dam made of pure light suddenly bursting, flooding the darkness with rushing rivers of green and violet. Picture the sky exploding in slow motion, the tranquil arc dissolving into a frenzy of curls and waves that race from horizon to horizon. It is a moment of total transformation where potential energy becomes kinetic beauty. It is a reminder that stillness is often just a container for power, and that when the moment is right, even the quietest things can expand to fill the entire world with their brilliance. The layer of the atmosphere where the aurora occurs is called the thermosphere. Here, the air is incredibly thin, yet the individual molecules are extremely hot, sometimes reaching thousands of degrees due to solar radiation. However, because the air is so sparse, a human traveling there would not feel heat, but freezing cold. It is a paradox of physics' high energy in a vacuum. Imagine floating in a region where the air itself is burning with invisible fire, yet the space around you feels like the deepest winter. Picture the lonely oxygen atoms vibrating with intense heat, separated by miles of empty, frozen silence. It is a realm of extremes, a place where our earthly definitions of hot and cold no longer apply. It is a reminder that reality is often more complex than our senses can perceive, and that intensity can exist side by side with the void, burning brightly in the empty spaces. In the high Arctic, the aurora is not just in the sky, it is under your feet. When the lights are bright, they are reflected perfectly in the snow and the frozen lakes below. Because snow has a high albedo, or reflectivity, the ground acts as a giant mirror, doubling the amount of light in the world. This creates a sensation of being suspended inside a sphere of green fire, with no clear up or down. Imagine walking across a frozen ocean that glows with the same emerald light as the stars. Picture the world turning into a kaleidoscope of green, where the ice mimics the heavens, and every step you take disturbs a pool of reflected light. You are walking on the sky. It is a soothing reminder that the earth receives whatever the universe offers, reflecting the beauty above to create a seamless, glowing whole where the ground and the galaxy are one. We tend to think of the aurora as a creature of the night, but it also occurs during the day. These daytime auroras are just as powerful and complex as their nocturnal cousins, but they are hidden from our eyes by the overwhelming glare of the sun. They dance invisibly above us while we go about our daily lives, a secret performance played out against a blue sky. Imagine a curtain of fire burning silently behind the blue veil of noon. Picture the electrons raining down just as harder, the gases glowing just as brighter, but masked entirely by the brilliance of the star that created them. The magic is there, even when the light is too bright to see it. It is a reminder that wonder is not limited to the times when we can perceive it. It is a constant presence, a hidden layer of reality that surrounds us even in the most ordinary moments of the day. There is a gentle form of precipitation in the polar regions known as polar rain. This is not made of water, but of electrons. Unlike the violent storms that create the dramatic curtains, polar rain is a steady, weak drizzle of particles falling from the solar wind directly onto the polar caps. It creates a faint, uniform glow that can last for days, a soft background hum of light that never varies. Imagine a gentle, glowing mist falling endlessly from space, dusting the top of the world with invisible energy. Picture a rain that does not wet the ground, but illuminates the air, a soft, continuous transfer of the sun's touch to the earth. It is the quietest weather in the solar system, a peaceful, steady state. It is a comforting reminder that the connection between our planet and its star is never broken, but continues as a soft, nurturing rain of energy that falls even in the deepest silence. There is a distinct phenomenon often mistaken for the aurora called SARC, or stabular auroral redark. Unlike the dancing curtains of the northern lights, which are caused by particles crashing into the atmosphere, SARC is caused by pure thermal energy leaking from the Earth's ring-current system. It appears as a static, motionless band of deep crimson glowing faintly in the mid-minus latitude, sometimes persisting for hours without shifting. Imagine a permanent bridge of red neon spanning the sky from horizon to horizon, frozen in place like a scar of light. Picture the heat slowly bleeding out of the magnetic field, glowing softly as it dissipates into the upper air, a silent river of warmth flowing over the sleeping world. It is a sign of the planet shedding its excess energy in the quietest way possible. It is a reminder that there are many different kinds of fire, and that some burn not with the chaotic flicker of a flame, but with the steady, enduring glow of an ember that refuses to go out. To see the aurora at its most powerful, one must wait for magnetic midnight. This is not the same as midnight on the clock, but the specific moment when the viewer is located directly between the Sun and the Earth's magnetic pole. At this alignment, the observer is looking straight down the barrel of the magnetitole, where the magnetic stresses are strongest and the probability of a bright display peaks. Imagine the Earth turning slowly in the dark, carrying you toward this invisible finish line. Picture the moment of alignment, a celestial click where the geometry of the solar system locks into place, opening the floodgates for the light to pour through. It is a rendezvous with the Sun's energy, scheduled by the rotation of the planet. It is a reminder that timing is everything, and that if we position ourselves correctly and wait for the right moment, the universe will align to show us its greatest treasures. Just before a major auroral storm erupts, the sky often displays a formation known as auroral beads. These look like a string of bright pearls draped along the magnetic field lines. This necklace is a sign of instability in space, a warning that the magnetic field is about to snap and release its stored energy. Within minutes of the beads appearing, the sky usually explodes into chaos. Imagine a diamond necklace strung across the heavens, glowing brighter and brighter until the string breaks. Picture the pearls scattering, dissolving into a shower of light that engulfs the horizon, transforming from a delicate ornament into a wild storm. It is the final moment of order before the release, the tension before the music begins. It is a reminder that great changes often begin with small, subtle signs, and that paying attention to the details can allow us to see the storm long before it fully arrives. One of the most ghost-like qualities of the aurora is its transparency. Unlike a cloud, which blocks the view of the heavens, the aurora is a veil of light that hides nothing. You can clearly see the stars twinkling through the curtains of green and purple. The light has volume, but almost no substance. It is a phantom luminescence, but occupies space without filling it. Imagine looking through a wall of fire and seeing the distant galaxies shining clearly on the other side. Picture the layers of the universe stacked on top of one another, the atmosphere glowing in the foreground, the stars burning in the background, occupying the same line of sight without obscuring each other. It is a vision of perfect clarity, where light adds to the view rather than blocking it. It is a reminder that true beauty does not demand all the attention for itself, but allows the rest of the universe to shine through it, enhancing the depth of the dark. The aurora is one of the oldest phenomena on Earth, likely existing long before there were eyes to see it. 4 billion years ago, when the Earth was young and its magnetic field was just forming, the solar wind was even stronger than it is today. Massive, global auroras would have danced over a lifeless planet, reflecting in the magma oceans in the first primordial seas. Imagine a wild, uninhabited world where the sky burns with green fire every single night, a spectacle of grandeur played out for no audience but the rocks and the waves. Picture the silent, lonely beauty of that ancient epoch, a light show that ran for eons in the empty theater of the early Earth. It is a humbling reminder that the universe does not exist for us. We are merely latecomers to a magnificent performance that has been playing since the dawn of time and will continue long after we are gone. The history of the aurora is not just written in books, it is frozen into the ice of the polar caps. When high-energy solar particles slam into the atmosphere, they create chemical changes that produce nitrates, which eventually fall as snow and are compressed into ice. By drilling deep into the glaciers of Greenland and Antarctica, scientists can read the history of solar storms from thousands of years ago, preserved in the layers like tree rings. Imagine walking through a library made of ice, where every shelf is a frozen stratum of time. Picture the chemical ghosts of ancient lights trapped in air bubbles, a physical record of a sky that burned long before civilization began. The ice holds the memory of the sun's anger and its beauty, waiting patiently to be read. It is a reminder that nothing in nature is truly lost, and that the earth acts as a silent scribe, keeping a perfect frozen record of every beam of light that has ever touched its surface. There is a specific region in the magnetosphere known as the polar cusp. This is a funnel-shaped opening in the magnetic shield, located directly above the poles on the sunward side of the Earth. Here, the magnetic lines curve inward, allowing the solar wind to pour directly into the atmosphere. Imagine a vast, invisible funnel standing over the top of the world, a direct doorway between the surface of the planet and the heart of the sun. Picture the solar particles spiraling down this chute, a continuous, silent waterfall of energy that feeds the atmosphere from above. It is the one place where the shield is intentionally open, a skylight in the roof of the world. It is a reminder that even in the strongest defenses, there must be openings to let the light in, and that connection requires a vulnerability to the forces we usually keep at bay. Even when the aurora is not active, the night sky is never completely dark. There is a phenomenon called airglow, a faint, uniform luminescence caused by sunlight interacting with atoms in the upper atmosphere during the day, which then slowly release that energy at night. Unlike the dancing, structured ribbons of the aurora, airglow is a steady, subtle emission that prevents the shadows from ever being absolute. Imagine the atmosphere as a slow release battery, charging up with gold and red light during the day and glowing softly like a dying ember all night long. Picture a world wrapped in a dim, self-luminous blanket, a sphere that holds onto the memory of the sun even in the deepest midnight. It is the quietest light of all, the background hum of the visual world. It is a comforting reminder that light is resilient, lingering in the air long after the source has gone, ensuring that we are never left in total darkness. The speed at which the aurora moves can be deceiving. While the curtains seem to drift lazily like smoke, the electrons creating them are crashing into the atmosphere at speeds of up to 40-5 million miles per hour. The serenity of the visual display masks the incredible velocity of the particles involved. The distance they travel in a single second is greater than a journey around the entire world. Imagine a storm moving so fast that it appears perfectly still. Picture the immense kinetic energy of the universe being absorbed and slowed by the soft blanket of the air. It converts terrified speed into tranquil light. The atmosphere acts as a brake, turning the violent rush of the cosmos into a gentle, hanging tapestry. It is a reminder that peace is often the result of dynamic forces held in balance, and that true calmness is not the absence of energy, but the mastery of it. Eventually, every geomagnetic storm must end. The solar wind slows, the magnetic field lines snap back into their resting shape, and the electrons cease their bombardment. The curtains of green fire fade, thinning into wisps of gray mist before vanishing entirely, leaving the stars to reclaim the night. The sky returns to its deep, velvet black, silent and empty, as if the display never happened. Imagine the final fading note of a great symphony, drifting away into the silence of a concert hall. Picture the last atom releasing its photon, the final breath of the sun exhaled into the polar night. The show is over, and the stillness that follows is deeper and heavier than before. The world sleeps under the watchful gaze of the Milky Way. It is a final, gentle reminder that all things, no matter how brilliant, must eventually return to rest, and that the darkness is a safe and quiet place to wait for the light to return. And so we drift to the end of our quiet journey through the frozen nights of the north. We have wandered from the churning heart of the sun to the silent glaciers of the pole, tracing the path of invisible energy as it transforms into visible magic. We have seen curtains of green fire billowing in the vacuum, and vast shields of magnetism protecting the sleeping world below. It is a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, there is light, and that the universe is constantly working to shield us, turning the chaotic winds of space into a gentle, glowing embrace. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, there is nothing more you need to do. Just breathe. Let your eyes grow heavy, and let the silent fire of the northern lights cradle your dreams. Good night.